Now as you have learned the basics of cloud computing and you have created your AWS account, let's go ahead and try to learn little bit more details of what are the different storage services that AWS provides and how these are different from each other and what are the functionalities of storage in AWS platform. So guys, we are going to understand why there is a need for different storage types in AWS, why we cannot have just one storage type. Okay, then we are going to understand the differences between three main storage type: EBS, EFS and S3. So these are three main storage types that you will be using most of the time. So we are going to understand what is the difference between them and when to use what. After that, I'm going to tell you about versioning in S3, intelligent tier archive config, the bucket policy in S3, the lifecycle rule in S3, and the replication rule in S3. All these are pretty important from a storage point of view. Let's see one by one, guys. So if you remember in my last video, I was giving you one example. So there is one file which you may need to open daily. Okay, this is file 1. And then there is another file F2 which you once, in a month you open. So how many times you open this? Daily. What is the frequency of this? Daily. And what is the frequency of file 2 that you want to open and access? Monthly. So obviously you will want low latency on this file. You want it to open fast. You want it to be more performance oriented. Whereas this you will want to store at little lower cost. You can compromise on latency. If it opens little slow, you are fine with that. So depending on what is our need and what is that we are trying to do, AWS provides you different storage types. When I go to the console, I will show you, but try to understand different storage types AWS will give you. Let's go to the console and I will try to show you something important first, guys. So you have to go to your console and you have to search something known as budget. Okay, BUDGET. You have to click on AWS budgets and you have to ensure that you are not spending anything beyond $0. For that, go ahead and create a budget here. Okay, in this create budget, there will be already a template. Use a simplified template. Create a zero spend budget like I am clicking now. Okay, and you can name it like do not spend money. Okay, and here you can say unfold data science, which email ID you want to send email alerts if your money is getting deducted. Unfold data science at gmail.com. This is pretty important, hence I'm telling you before talking storage. Okay, because you don't end up wasting money. So unfold data science at gmail.com, you say whatever email ID you want and then say create budget. Okay, so if you see this do not spend money is created. Okay, now I had created some budgets before. If you see here, my budget has exceeded $0 once, and that is what it is telling me. My budget has, one time it has triggered alert. So for example, if you see here, budget history in October, one day I spent $0.30. So that is because I ran a bad job. I should not have done that. But be careful, set a budget so that you get an alert. Okay. Now, if I go to the services and if I go to the storage, guys, right, you will see different types of storage here. AWS Backup, EFS that I wrote in the whiteboard, Elastic Disaster Recovery, FSX, S3, Glacier, and Storage Gateway. Now, as I told you, if you try to learn everything in one shot, it will be too much for you and not everything we use always. Okay, so just bother about three main things. Okay, what three main things I wrote here? EBS, EFS, and S3. Let me write here. EBS, okay, EFS, okay, and S3. I will tell you what is the use of all these one by one. So suppose you want a computer from Amazon Web Services. What you want? You want a computer to process your machine learning engine or your application or anything you want to put on the server and process it. So what you do? You initialize something known as a EC2 instance. EC2 instance means a machine that Amazon gives you to do your work. At the moment you take a EC2 instance, I will cover EC2 instance in my next video in detail. But for now, you can just understand that EC2 instance is nothing but a machine that Amazon gives you to do your work at rent. Okay. When you take an EC2 instance, you can simply think like your computer. okay, but that Amazon has given you on rent, okay. If you take a computer, then there will be a disk associated with that computer, right? Memory associated with that computer. Whatever memory gets associated with EC2, you can call it as EBS volume, okay? Elastic block storage. Fine. This is your EBS. What is EBS? Every time I want to rent a machine from Amazon Web Service, there will be some memory associated with that machine. That memory will be of the EBS category. Okay. Now, what is EFS? EFS you use in a situation where you want a storage which can be used by multiple people in the network, or multiple computers in the network, or multiple servers in the network. So what I'm going to tell to Amazon is, hey, give me 100 GB of space, give me 100 GB of space, and my server 1 will access, my server 2 will access, my server 3 will access. So whenever you want a common shared hard drive, common shared network drive, then you take something known as elastic file system, EFS. Okay. And what is S3? S3 is something that we covered last video as well. S3 is your common repository to store anything and everything that you want. Common repo for static files, I can say. Static files. I will tell you one more time the difference between EBS, EFS, and S3. Try to understand this. Every time you take a machine on rent from Amazon, Amazon will give you some space with that machine. Okay, that space is your EBS. Every time you want to buy some space, which can be used by multiple machines in a network, that is your EFS. Every time you want to have a common repository where you want to store whatever you want, mostly static files, that is known as S3. Okay, this is the common difference between three major storage that you should know in the world of AWS. Okay, now guys, obviously the cost will vary based on what is the use of this. As you can see, it will support a network of computers. Cost will be little high. S3 is a kind of little cheap because you will put mostly static files there. Okay, EBS depend on what kind of EBS you are taking, what kind of storage service you are taking with your machine. So cost and etc will vary. Now let's go to the Amazon console and I'll try to show you some important things about S3 buckets that we created. Okay, so let's go to S3. If you remember, we created this unfold data science bucket that day, right? So I want to show you a few important things, guys. First of all, let's go to the properties of the bucket. In these properties, you will see something known as bucket versioning. So versioning is a means of keeping multiple variants of an object in the same bucket. So if you remember, I uploaded one object in that bucket. What versioning will allow you to do is, versioning will allow you to have multiple versions of that object. Let me show you. If you go to objects, right? If you click on this, if you go to versions, right? It will say you bucket unfold DS bucket first does not have a bucket versioning enabled. We recommend that you enable bucket versioning to help protect against unintentionally overwriting or deleting object. You don't want to do this, right? You don't want to unintentionally delete objects. So what you should do is, you should go to the properties of bucket. So bucket, open your bucket, go to properties, and in your bucket versioning, go ahead and say enable. Okay, and say save changes. Fine. Now bucket version is enabled. So what happens if I try to upload the same file again? If I try to upload the same file again, let's see that. So I will try to add file from my download. Same file I will add. Let's go to downloads and upload to AWS is my file. Go here and same file I will try to upload in the bucket. Okay. Upload succeeded. Now let's see if I go to the bucket. Okay. And if I want to see the object. Okay. And if I want to see the version, you will see something has happened here. Previously it was not showing, right? Now it is showing. This is current version. And then you will see some more things here. See here, this is before versioning was enabled. Okay. Now, if you want to upload one more time, it will store that version as well and will not write your existing version. Very, very important characteristic, very, very important property to know. You do not want to accidentally write any of your object. So you always go ahead and maintain the version of your objects. This is applicable when through Python or through any other programming language, through any other interface, you are trying to update some file, store some file in S3. Multiple programmers are working and they kind of upload same name file. Then what happens? It will overwrite. If you don't want to do, enable version. That is about versioning. Another important thing about bucket I want to show you here, that is known as intelligent tier archiving. Okay, so let me show you what is this. You see here, enable objects stored in the intelligent tiering storage class to tier down. Tier down means you are storing some object and you want to access it very fast, or you want to access it in the main drive, or you want to access it less frequently, or you want to put it at priority 2, or you want to access it more less frequently and you want to put it at priority 3. What is that you want to do? Let's see and go ahead and create configuration. Okay, and I will say here intelligent tier config, right? So let's say my int config, my intelligent config. Okay, and I will say this configuration applies to all the object in this bucket. Fine. Now it will tell you archive access tier. When enabled, intelligent tier will automatically move objects that haven't been accessed for a minimum of 90 days to archive tier. Okay, so if you do not access an object for 90 days, it will move it to archive tier. And you can mention here number of days as well. For example, I will say 90 here for now. You can make it 95 as well. This is one level of archiving. Okay, another level of archiving is deep tier archiving. Okay, here let's say between 180 to 730 any days you can give. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say, let's say 500 days. If I do not access an object for 95 days, it will move to a lower cost storage. You see here 10% lower cost storage. Okay. If I do not access any archive, any file for more than 500, it will move to one more level down to a lower cost group. Okay, that is the reason it happens automatically if you set it, and it will save your cost for the objects which you do not want to access very frequently. If you say create, it will create a rule for intelligent tier. Okay, my int config is getting created. What is the rule? Days until transition to archive access tier 95. If you don't access for these many days, first level. If you don't access for 500 days, second level. How this is helpful? AWS is all about cost, guys. Okay, so if there are files which is not being used frequently, keep moving it to the lower storage category. Very, very important to understand. As I told you, there are many features. I'm covering only the important things. Okay, now since you have seen this, let's come to permission tab. In the permission tab, I was telling you other day about bucket policy, right? Bucket block public access is very, very important policy. And then bucket policy I had created. If somebody has not seen the last video, guys, please see the first video where I had created this bucket policy through policy generator. So what bucket policy does, it tells what should be the access of the bucket, who can read the bucket, who can modify the bucket, etc. Very, very important, and many things you will learn here if you scroll it, if you browse it little more. Okay, bucket policies, pretty important. Please do it and please go through it. I had covered in last video, hence not covering in much detail. Let's go to few more important aspects of S3 buckets. Let's go to management, and there is something called a life cycle rule. Okay, use life cycle rule to define actions you want to take during an object lifetime, such as transitioning object to another storage class, archiving them, or deleting them after a specified period of time. What we did now is a intelligent tier archiving, but here it will move to your different storage class altogether. Okay, different storage class altogether, which means if you go to AWS console, you will see different storage class, right? See here, there is something called S3 Glacier. S3 Glacier means archive storage in the cloud. So it is something which files you will put here which you don't need at all. You just want a backup, but you don't access it very frequently. Okay. So what happens in lifecycle rule is my lifecycle rule. Okay. Apply to all objects, and I will create some rules here. Okay. Move current version of object between storage class, or move non-current version, whatever you want, you can choose it. I will choose move current version, means latest version. So what I want to do, see here the options. Standard IA is one category. infrequently access data once a month with millisecond access, 30 days minimum storage duration. Okay. So what happens if you do not access an object for 30 days, right? Then you will put here, let's say 40. Okay. And then you will say that standard 1A after 40 days it will move. Then standard 1A is disabled. So you can go to the next. In next, you can go to intelligent tiering. Intelligent tiering, you can give, let's say 90 days. Okay. Then these two will get disabled. And then I can say move it to Glacier Deep Archive. I'm directly going to Glacier Deep Archive and I'm saying for 300 days, if I don't access, move it to Glacier Deep Archive. Okay. What will happen here? You will be charged for each object you transition to S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval. A fixed amount storage is also added on each object to accommodate metadata for managing. Okay, but the cost is very, very low in Glacier because it is a low cost storage. So if I say create rule, what will happen is this is different from intelligent tier. Don't confuse. Here we are moving between storage class. Okay, but there we are in the one storage class S3 only, and we are doing intelligent tiering of the object. But here we are moving to different storage class. Glacier Deep Archive is different storage class. One John IA is different class, right? So this way we are creating here. If I say create rule, it will create a rule. Acknowledgement is required. So if I check this box and I say that okay, I acknowledge, it will take it. Okay, so it will create a rule. What is the issue? I acknowledge this will apply to all the objects. Fine. So you can see this is a life cycle rule between storage class of the objects. Pretty important, this one also. Okay. Now I want to show you one more thing here in the buckets that is known as create replication rule. Okay. Replication rule means I want to copy all the content of one bucket to another bucket. Okay. So how I will do that? First of all, I will go here and create a new bucket. Create a bucket. Okay. And I will say my target bucket. This is the bucket in which I want to copy all the objects from a different bucket. Why I want to do it? Many a times, as I told you, Amazon services or servers are on different geographical location. In your projects, you will be sitting at one place, your other team will be sitting at other place. Maybe you want to have one copy of S3 bucket for your place or your, um, usage in your zone, right? So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to create replication rule. Let's create a bucket. Bucket name already exists. My target bucket, let's say 23, any name I'm giving. Create bucket. So this is my target bucket. What I want to do, I want to unfold DS bucket. I want to copy all the information from here to my target bucket. How to do that? Go here, go to management, go to create replication rule. Okay. Replication rule ID. I will say my rep rule. Okay. And prefix, I will not give anything. Apply to all objects in this bucket. I want to copy everything that is there in the bucket. Choose the bucket that will receive replicated object. So which bucket is my target bucket? This bucket. Choose path. Okay. Replication requires versioning to be enabled for the destination bucket. Enable bucket versioning. I will enable destination. It has been enabled now. Okay. And I will say choose from existing IAM role. That is fine. I don't want to do anything else. And then I will say save IAM role. Here. Okay. Create new role. Okay. So new role it will create. Let's not bother about that. Replicate existing object also I want to replicate. Okay. So what will happen is now in that new bucket, all the object of this bucket will get replicated. What happened? Path to completion. Browse my target bucket, choose path, save. So what may happen is it may not get copied immediately, but in few minutes you will see that in the target bucket, your objects will come from the source bucket. So if you go to S3, if you go to S3, okay, what is in your source bucket? Unfold data science bucket, upload to AWS only one file, okay. I'm expecting this file to come here. It is not here now, but after some time you will see it will come here. You can do the experiment. The reason for that is it is doing in batch processing, okay. So it will reflect here after some time. Fine. So I will just tell you one more time what I have covered today. Very important thing, bucket versioning, remember. Very important thing, intelligent tier archiving, moving between same storage class. Okay. Tier down to archive tier, deep archive tier. Okay. And if you go to management, we covered two important things. One is life cycle rule, one is replication rule. Very, very important to understand. And then in permission, very, very important to understand your bucket policy. Okay. In the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover Amazon EC2 instance in detail. Meanwhile, if you have any question, please drop me a comment. Okay. See you all with my next video, guys. Wherever you are, stay safe and take care.